Huge names return on WWE SmackDown. We've got the backstage reaction to Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman's promo from Raw, and we have an update on Mercedes Moné's New Japan and Stardom deal. Stay tuned for the news. Oh, it was a big SmackDown. We had a lot of stuff coming out of the show. It was
a little bit,
just a little bit. It was a fun show. There was lots of good matches. And we'll have a graded short on the channel very soon. But we had a couple of returns, and that was the key sort of talking point coming out of last night, along with all the Sami Zayn stuff. But starting things off, Ronda Rousey is back. She returned during a segment. We saw Shayna Baszler and Natalya in the ring. Natalya was basically running Shayna down.
Natty was running Shayna down in only the way that Natty can, kind of like a man giving you stuff to say back to bullies. But I think she said something like, Shayna Baszler's nothing but a knockoff Ronda Rousey. And then she said something about sending Shayna back to be the person that carries Ronda's bags. Out comes Shayna. Commentary are like, Shayna doesn't want to feel like she's being overshadowed. And second they said overshadowed, Ronda's music hit. Out comes Ronda. There's a bit of a fight. Shotzi came down to try and get involved and save Natty, but it wasn't kind of went the way you'd expect with Ronda and Shayna in the ring.
It wasn't very successful. Now Baszler dismisses the comparison to Ronda, being like, I'm also very successful in the MMA. I also do UFC. I'm a good fighter.
Ronda might have got all the press, but I can still rip your arms off.
Exactly. Oh, she's terrifying.
Yeah.
Let her just go for a fight, but she had a good career in MMA before Rousey even did, and that she doesn't need her. This meant that when Rousey did come out, it was like, ooh, is she going to square off with Shayna?
Yeah.
Oh, give us that, please. But no, they sort of stood, they had a little confrontation. Shayna then stopped Ronda from attacking Natalya.
Yeah.
And then just battered her. Just beat her up.
Yeah.
And it was a little fun segment.
Not for Natty, but it was fun to watch.
Well, it has been announced that next week it will be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Natalya and Shotzi to sort of follow on from this angle. That will be taking place next week. Poor Shotzi coming down the ring to make the save, and then
it's just getting BTFO'd.
That really was not how it went. Was going to plan, but this was Ronda's first appearance. This year in WWE.
What are you thinking about partnering up Ronda and Shayna? We were talking with Adam about it last weekend, I think, and it was like, I can't. I'm all for it. I feel like they should be treating Shayna like more of a credible threat. I want to see Shayna in a fight pit match.
Oh, that'd be class.
I want to see Shayna given that level of aggression that she's capable of. We've seen it in NXT. We've seen her be just brutal with people.
I think it's actually a good move to put her with Ronda at the moment because those two together, I think, have really good chemistry. And you can tell that they're friends. You can tell that they're enjoying what they're doing, and it might elevate Shayna up the card a bit to be associated.
And it's weird because obviously Shayna was such a dominant force through NXT, and then it was just one of those main roster kind of arrivals where it was like, and then it feels like they've not really done much with her, and it's a shame because, she's just brutal.
Exactly. The only thing I'm surprised at here is that Ronda's completely okay with losing her SmackDown Women's Championship. We've not seen her since she lost it to Flair, and we've not seen her sort of reference it. We may see that going into it, but I think we're seeing her and Shayna for the tag titles.
Yeah, we likely will see her address it, but it might just be one of those, kind of more sports-like. You can't win them all. It's just one of those things. I've went away, I've come back, and this is what we're doing now.
Well, someone else who went away and came back, it's Jey Uso, because I've been speculating for a while we wouldn't see him until Elimination Chamber.
See, that's what I was thinking as well. It was like, they're going to let this just fester and fester, aren't they?
Which is why I feel like this is very apt that, it's a big return, and SmackDown, I didn't see it coming at all. But last night, after we saw him walk out of the Royal Rumble and the Bloodline's attack on Sami Zayn, he returned last night to help defend his undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships against Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Now, he interrupted the pre-match introductions by sort of entering via the crowd, and then it was
they go to announce Jimmy, and then Jimmy kind of goes, whoop, and then the light kind of shines on Jey. Jey is just in the middle of all the people with both belts. Huge reaction.
He's so over as well. It's great to see. But they would go on to successfully defend the championships, and then post-match, Jimmy asked Jey if he's in or out of the Bloodline. This is backstage, and Jey's answer was somewhat non-committal. He sort of just didn't really commit to anything, and it's allowing it to sort of be a little bit more
Yeah,
open.
he's kind of like, he commits to his brother, but that's about as far as we're kind of aware.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. He says he's loyal to Jimmy. And then later on, Jay encounters Sami Zayn sort of in the parking lot of the arena.
It's so good.
And then Zayn thanked him for walking out on the bloodline and not jumping in on the attack on poor Sami at the Rumble. And then it was a really nice moment. You see how torn Jay is, and Sami's like looking around, trying to like making sure that he's safe, and being like, "I acknowledge you." And Jay's face, it's like he's validated.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, Christ, looking at this, like if you go all the way back to the fact that Jey Uso was just the sort of impetus for all of it.
Oh yeah.
You know, like kind of moving onward, and like this whole storyline has just been able to keep those like blurred lines for this long. There's got to be some level of.
Well, the segment sort of ended with Sami getting the fist bump up, and it's like waiting there, and Jay sort of is looking around like,
I can't do it. Is there any cameras? Roman's got all the cameras on his phone.
Quickly gives him a fist bump and then walks off, and it's like Sami's like, you know this is happening. You want to see this man go down next week, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to do it. Oh my God, Elimination Chamber could not be more.
Road to WrestleMania this year, man.
Speaking of Road to WrestleMania, we're on the roads to WrestleMania because we've got a little bit of a little backstage news on that really, really epic promo from Monday, don't we, Sam?
Unbelievable. Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman having a very emotional, very personal promo in which Dusty was brought up at length, and they went back and forth about Dusty quite heavily. But this one comes from Fightful Select, and they're reporting that the backstage reaction to the promo has been positive, with talent, higher-ups and officials all pleased with the content of it and the fan reception for the feud or main event WrestleMania. It's also reported that the segment was said to have been to have heavily benefited from WWE's much looser and relaxed scripting since the departure of Vince McMahon as head of creative, which
no surprise there.
Heyman was also reportedly unaware that Cody would mention Dusty Rhodes getting booked in ECW in 2000, with those close to Cody stating they weren't sure if it had ever been communicated to Heyman just how important the ECW booking was to the Rhodes family. Obviously, Cody mentions at one point, you know, there was a point where the Rhodes family till was a bit empty. They were really like suffering through some hard times. They had $100 limit on all their bank accounts. Dusty had to do, you know, TV commercials just to keep the car. Like
it was the car insurance commercials to keep the car. I liked his,
and it was Heyman who kind of offered that olive branch to come to ECW and restore his confidence. But I
liked his little line where he was like, "Hard times wasn't just a promo. Like we lived hard times."
But you see Heyman just start to well up, and it's just so good. But additionally, the report notes that Heyman wrote his portion of the promo and Rhodes wrote his side. Finally, one WWE higher-up said, "Cody Rhodes is a star and Paul Heyman is a star maker." I think, they were in a difficult position and made something that seemed like a manufactured booking decision become personal. Become a personal WrestleMania main event if it ends up going in that direction.
And I think it will. I think that's what we're going to see. It feels like we spoke about it on the podcast, whether if Sami Zayn could overshadow this WrestleMania feud. And I think this segment, which was done to try and sort of stop that from happening, I think it's been rather successful. The fans want both Cody and Sami, and it's been a while since we've seen WWE have two red hot baby faces at this level.
It's just...
I'm so excited for WrestleMania. It's been so long since we've had some fun.
Yeah, man. It just feels like the last few years it's just been starting to build a bit more and build a bit more.
I feel like I'm 10 again. But staying with SmackDown sort of news, we've got a number one contender crowned for the Intercontinental Championship. In somewhat of a surprise, actually, because last night we saw Rey Mysterio, Karrion Kross, Santos Escobar and Madcap Moss all face off in a fatal four-way match to determine the next challenger to Gunther. And
you'd look at it on paper and maybe go, no, I don't see Moss winning this.
Yeah, you would look at it and go, well, I could see Karrion doing this. You know, they're kind of behind him.
Little did we know.
Santos had a good run in the World Cup. Rey Mysterio's a legend.
It's Rey Mysterio. Just give him the belt. Yeah.
But no cap. As Ross would say, Madcap has won. He's going to face Gunther next week on SmackDown. And he kind of capitalized on a sort of at the end of the match. He hit an elbow drop on Rey for the pin. After the match, Emma came out to celebrate him. That's his real life partner came out to celebrate. And the announcers and social media were kind of hyping this up as this is his biggest win ever.
It's a huge opportunity. I mean, he's got to go up against the Austrian Wall. I don't know how he's going to fare against the Austrian Wall. He's a big lad.
He is.
He's a very big lad, and he's going to be able to take, Gunther for a pretty good challenge, I think. I think he might surprise a lot of us. But it's quite the challenge. It's quite the challenge. I'll be rooting for you, but I don't know.
I mean, he had quite a big push under the Vince McMahon regime, and then he's only wrestled 3 times between, I think it was September and January.
This is it. It feels like he just needs like a big coming out party. Like he needs that big platform moment just to go, hey, look, like, you might all be sleeping on Moss, but, he's got a bright future ahead of him.
If he can do well next week, then people might start paying more attention to him. I think he had a lot of fun last year. Madcap was really fun, and he had big wins over Baron Corbin, but we've not seen him get that little bit, that main
he's already got
thing.
The personality side down, right? So it's just a case of showing everybody, or just reminding everybody, not showing them that, I can also go in the ring.
You can go in the ring. Well, we're going to finally end on a sort of an update on Mercedes Moné. So it's previously been reported that Mercedes Moné was making more money in New Japan and Stardom than Chris Jericho was during his run in New Japan in 2017. Well, the Wrestling Observer has come back with a new report that says that this is not even close, and that the money is not at the level she could get with WWE or AEW. The report notes that it is very good money for a per appearance deal, but the fact that it's less money than WWE or AEW would have offered her could suggest that she's doing this run for more experience or sort of a bucket list sort of moment and run in her career. The report goes on to say that under this deal, she does have a lot more freedom to explore acting than she would have if she'd gone back to WWE, which is kind of self-explanatory. She's independent.
She's been very vocal about the fact that she wants to explore that world more.
You see her on every red carpet at the moment, so she's kind of making her name in that industry as well. She was in Star Wars. She would have a similar freedom under AEW, but, and this is key here, she would have had to have signed a 3-year deal with the company, with Meltzer saying that AEW isn't going to open itself up to sort of another William Regal situation.
I mean, their fingers got pretty burned by that contract, so it's no surprising.
I mean, it was probably a little...
It's not surprising.
It's not surprising that they don't want another situation like that, because you don't want to sign someone for a year and then they go off and make a bigger name for themselves elsewhere off your back. But interesting that in New Japan, she's not actually making as much as Chris Jericho, and we saw loads of people sort of dispute that, including Chris Jericho himself.
I think Jericho was making like very regular appearances, wasn't he? So it felt like maybe Jericho's deal, if it was per appearance, would be maybe lower but more dates. But it felt maybe more like Jericho was contracted because he had titles, and
I wouldn't be surprised if he got a portion of like tickets at gates and sort of like that. But that is all the news we have for video 1. We'll be back later on. We have a very busy day today.
Don't we, Sam? It's Cultaholic live at midday. So we got to get all this done, get it out, and then get over and get setting up the venue. So if you're coming along, we'll see you soon. If not, stay tuned to the channel.
Exactly. I can't do a better outro than that. Just listen to what he said.
Yeah.